The fluorescent lights hummed softly overhead as Jasmine Cooper walked through the quiet halls of Hope Valley Rehabilitation Center. It was Tuesday afternoon, her regular volunteer day after finishing her nursing shift at Atlanta General Hospital. At 32, she had made volunteering a priority in her life, believing that healing went beyond just medical care. That particular spring afternoon seemed ordinary enough. Jasmine's natural curls were pulled back in a neat bun, her purple scrub still fresh from the change she kept in her car. As she signed in at the front desk, Monica, the receptionist, waved her over with unusual excitement. "We got a new resident last week," Monica whispered, though there was no one else in the lobby. "He's different from our usual patients. Runs some big tech company from his laptop. Been here a week, and he's already got everyone talking." Jasmine smiled politely, used to Monica's gossip, but something about her tone sparked curiosity. "Which room?" she asked, checking the volunteer assignment sheet. "Room 215, Monica replied with a knowing smile. "He's all yours today." Walking down the corridor, Jasmine checked her watch. 3:30 p.m., time for afternoon therapy support. She knocked gently on room 215's door, clipboard in hand. The voice that answered was unexpectedly warm and rich. "Come on in. Door's open." Inside, she found a man about her age sitting in a sophisticated wheelchair, his laptop balanced on a special tray. His chocolate brown skin glowed under the sunlight streaming through the window, and despite his inability to move his legs, his presence filled the room. A neat beard framed his bright smile, and his eyes sparkled with intelligence. "Marcus Bennett," he introduced himself, extending his hand. "And you must be the famous Jasmine I've been hearing about from the other patients." Jasmine shook his hand, noticing his firm grip and the way his eyes held genuine interest. "Famous might be stretching it," she laughed. "I just come in to help where I can." "Well, according to Mrs. Johnson in 210, you're practically an angel," Marcus grinned. "She told me all about how you helped her write letters to her grandchildren last week." As Jasmine set up for their therapy session, she learned that Marcus had been paralyzed from the waist down in a car accident 3 years ago. But what struck her wasn't his disability. It was how he talked about his tech company with passion, making jokes about coding errors and startup challenges, as if he were discussing the weather. "So," he said, as she helped him position his arms for stretching exercises, "what makes a full-time nurse spend her free time volunteering? Most people would be home relaxing." The question caught her off guard. Most patients didn't ask about her life. "I believe in healing beyond medicine," she answered honestly. "Sometimes people need more than just physical therapy. They need someone to see them as people, not patients." Marcus's eyes softened. "That's actually beautiful and rare. Most people see the wheelchair first and the person second." The first session flew by, filled with conversation that flowed naturally between exercises. Jasmine found herself laughing more than she had in months. Marcus had a way of turning his experiences into humorous stories, even the challenging ones. As she prepared to leave, Marcus called out, "Same time next week." Jasmine turned back, surprised by the hopefulness in his voice. "I'm here every Tuesday and Thursday." "Then I'll make sure to schedule my boring business calls for Mondays and Wednesdays," he winked. Walking back to her car that evening, Jasmine felt different. Something about Marcus's presence, his joy despite his circumstances, and his genuine interest in others had touched her. She caught herself smiling at the memory of his jokes, then quickly shook her head. He was a patient, she reminded herself. Nothing more. But as she drove home through the Atlanta traffic, his words kept echoing in her mind. She didn't realize then that this ordinary Tuesday afternoon had just changed the course of her life forever. That sometimes the biggest surprises come in unexpected packages, and that love doesn't always arrive in the way we imagine it will. In her apartment that night, as she prepared for bed, Jasmine found herself looking forward to Thursday's volunteer shift with an excitement she hadn't felt in years. Little did she know, in room 215, Marcus was already rearranging his entire week's schedule to make sure he'd be free for every therapy session with the nurse who saw him as a person first and a patient second. Over the next few months, Jasmine's volunteer sessions with Marcus became the highlight of both their weeks. Their conversations grew deeper, moving beyond casual small talk to meaningful discussions about life, dreams, and the future. Marcus's room had slowly transformed into a mini-office, with multiple screens displaying complex coding projects that he managed from his wheelchair. One Thursday afternoon, as Jasmine helped Marcus with his arm exercises, he surprised her by asking, "Would you like to see what I actually do for work? Everyone here thinks I just play around on computers all day." Curious, Jasmine pulled up a chair beside his workspace. Marcus's fingers flew across the keyboard as he pulled up his company's website, Bennett Tech Solutions. Jasmine's eyes widened as she realized that the small tech company Monica had mentioned was actually a multi-million-dollar software enterprise. "You're the CEO of BTS?" she gasped, recognizing the company logo from commercials. "The company that develops accessibility software?" Marcus grinned sheepishly. "Guilty as charged, though I prefer guy who gets to help make technology work for everyone over CEO. The accident actually inspired our newest project." He showed her prototypes of software that helped paralyzed individuals control their home environments through voice commands. Word spread quickly through the hospital about Marcus's true identity. Suddenly, staff members who had previously ignored him were finding reasons to visit room 215. But Jasmine remained unchanged, still bringing him her homemade cookies and teasing him about his terrible jokes. This didn't go unnoticed by Marcus's sister, Michelle, who visited frequently. One day, she cornered Jasmine in the hallway. "You know he's worth millions, right?" Michelle's tone was accusatory. "And you're still treating him the same way you did before you knew." Jasmine met Michelle's gaze steadily. Money doesn't change who a person is. Marcus is still Marcus, terrible jokes and all. This response made its way back to Marcus, who found himself falling harder for the nurse who saw beyond his wheelchair and his wealth to the person he truly was. However, their growing closeness didn't escape notice or criticism. One evening during a family dinner, Jasmine's mother voiced her concerns. "Baby, are you sure about spending so much time with this man? Life with a disabled person won't be easy. What about children? Travel? Dancing at your wedding?" Jasmine put down her fork, fighting back tears of frustration. "Mama, when I'm with Marcus, I don't see disability. I see strength. I see intelligence. I see someone who makes me laugh and challenges me to think differently about everything." Meanwhile, Marcus faced his own battles. During a board meeting, one of his directors suggested that his friendship with a nurse might damage the company's image. Marcus's response was immediate and firm. "The woman you're concerned about has more integrity and compassion than this entire board combined," he stated, his voice cold. "She's the reason I still believe in humanity after everything I've been through. If anyone has a problem with that, there's the door." Despite the opposition, their bond grew stronger. They began spending time together outside the rehabilitation center. Marcus took Jasmine to fancy restaurants in his specially modified car, while she introduced him to small family-owned diners with the best soul food in Atlanta. One rainy evening, as they shared banana pudding at Jasmine's favorite diner, Marcus spoke softly. "You know, before my accident, I dated women who were interested in my money or my status. After the accident, I thought no one would see past this wheelchair. Then you walked into room 215, and for the first time, someone saw just me." Jasmine reached across the table and took his hand. "And you saw just me too. Not the always busy nurse, not the perpetual volunteer, just Jasmine." As they sat there, hands clasped across the table, neither cared about the curious stares from other diners or the whispers that followed them. They had found something rare, a connection that transcended physical limitations and social expectations. That evening marked a turning point in their relationship. They were no longer just a volunteer nurse and her patient, or even just friends. They were two people who had found love in the most unexpected place, proving that the heart sees no barriers when it finds its match. Back at the rehabilitation center, Monica watched them with a knowing smile. She had seen many people come and go through those doors, but never had she witnessed a love story quite like this one unfold before her eyes. Spring had painted Marcus's private garden in vibrant colors, a space he had specially designed after moving from the rehabilitation center to his modernized home. The evening sun cast a golden glow over the accessible pathways and raised flower beds he could tend to from his wheelchair. Today, however, his attention wasn't on the blooming roses or the humming fountains. Marcus's hands trembled slightly as he checked his jacket pocket for the 100th time, feeling the small velvet box that held his grandmother's ring. He had spent weeks planning this moment, making sure every detail was perfect. The garden lights were strategically placed, the catering team had set up an elegant picnic spread, and his heart was racing faster than his wheelchair had ever moved. At exactly 6:30 p.m., Jasmine arrived, looking beautiful in a yellow sundress that made her dark skin glow. 6 months had passed since they officially began dating, and every day had only strengthened their bond. "Marcus, this is beautiful," she exclaimed, taking in the romantic setup. "What's the special occasion?" He guided her to the picnic blanket, specially elevated so he could transfer easily from his wheelchair. "Can't a man just spoil his girlfriend?" he teased, though his voice held a hint of nervousness that Jasmine didn't miss. They enjoyed their meal, sharing stories and laughing as the sun began to set. Marcus kept glancing at the garden clock, waiting for the perfect moment. At precisely 7:15 p.m., soft music began playing from hidden speakers. At Last by Etta James, the song that had been playing during their first dance when Marcus had pulled Jasmine onto his lap at a restaurant. "Jasmine," he began, his voice serious now. "These past months have taught me something important. Love isn't about walking together. It's about moving forward together, no matter how we have to do it." Reaching into his pocket, Marcus pulled out the ring box. Jasmine's hands flew to her mouth as he opened it, revealing a vintage diamond ring that sparkled in the evening light. "My grandmother gave me this ring before she passed," he explained. "She told me to save it for someone extraordinary, someone who could see with their heart. When I had my accident, I packed it away, thinking I'd never find someone who could love me completely. Then you walked into room 215. Tears streamed down Jasmine's face as Marcus continued. "I may not be able to get down on one knee, but I can promise you my whole heart. Jasmine Cooper, will you marry me?" Before she could answer, voices erupted from behind the garden bushes. Both their families stepped out, Marcus's parents and sister Michelle, and Jasmine's parents and younger brother. They had been hiding there the whole time, waiting to witness this moment. Jasmine's mother stepped forward first, tears in her eyes. "Baby, we were wrong. Seeing you two together these past months, that's real love." She hugged her daughter tightly. Marcus's father wheeled closer to them. "Son, you've proven that true love knows no boundaries. Jasmine has brought light back into your eyes." Michelle, who had once been skeptical, now held her phone, recording everything with a huge smile. "Well, sis," she said to Jasmine, "are you going to leave my brother hanging? He's been practicing this speech for weeks." Through her tears, Jasmine finally found her voice. "Yes," she said, looking directly into Marcus's eyes. 1,000 times yes." As Marcus slipped the ring onto her finger, their families burst into applause. The garden lights twinkled like stars around them, and for that perfect moment, there was no disability, no wheelchair, no barriers, just two people deeply in love. Later that night, after their families had left and they sat quietly in the garden, Jasmine looked at her ring. "You know people will talk, right? They'll say all sorts of things about us." Marcus took her hand, his thumb brushing over the ring. "Let them talk. We'll be too busy being happy to listen." As they sat there under the stars, they knew their journey wouldn't be easy. Society would have its opinions, there would be challenges to face and obstacles to overcome, but they had already proven that love could break through any barrier, and together, they were ready to face whatever came their way. In the distance, a shooting star streaked across the Atlanta sky, as if heaven itself was celebrating their engagement. Their love story might not have been conventional, but it was theirs, and it was perfect. Wedding planning took on a unique dimension as Jasmine and Marcus worked to create their perfect day. The Grand Plaza Hotel's ballroom had been chosen for its state-of-the-art accessibility features, but that was just the beginning of their special preparations. 3 months before the wedding, Marcus began disappearing for hours at a time, claiming he had extended business meetings. Jasmine noticed he seemed more tired than usual, but whenever she asked, he'd smile mysteriously and change the subject. What she didn't know was that Marcus was spending these hours at a private medical facility, working with cutting-edge technology that could change everything. "The wedding venue needs to be perfect," Marcus insisted during a meeting with their wedding planner, Sarah. "Every ramp, every door width, every bathroom, I want my groomsmen in wheelchairs to move around as easily as anyone else." Sarah nodded, making notes. "We've already confirmed the elevated dance floor and the wheelchair-accessible altar platform. But sir, about these extra medical staff you've requested to be present. Marcus cut her off with a subtle shake of his head as Jasmine walked into the room. Some surprises were worth keeping. Meanwhile, Jasmine faced her own challenges. During her final dress fitting, her mother watched with tears in her eyes as she twirled in her specially designed gown. The dress was beautiful, but different from traditional wedding dresses, shorter in length to avoid wheelchair wheels, with special fabric that wouldn't catch or snag. Baby, her mother said softly, I need to apologize again. When you first told us about Marcus, I worried about all the things you wouldn't have. But watching you plan this wedding, seeing how you both adapt and overcome every challenge, you're going to have so much more than I ever imagined for you. The guest list grew to 300 people, many from the tech world and disability advocacy groups who had worked with Marcus over the years. But the most special invitations went to the staff at Hope Valley Rehabilitation Center, including Monica, who still took credit for bringing them together. One evening, 6 weeks before the wedding, Marcus was unusually quiet during their dinner date. Jasmine noticed his hands trembling slightly as he moved his fork. Are you okay? She asked, concerned. You've been pushing yourself too hard lately. Marcus reached across the table for her hand. I'm fine, just tired from therapy sessions. But trust me, it's worth it. What Jasmine didn't see were the private sessions Marcus attended 3 times a week. In a secure medical facility across town, he worked with a team of specialists on something that would make their wedding day unforgettable. Dr. Chen, his lead physician, watched his progress with amazement. Mr. Bennett, what you're trying to achieve? The dedication required? Are you sure you don't want to tell her? Marcus shook his head, determination in his eyes. I've calculated everything. The timing, the technology, the strength needed. When I stand up during our ring exchange, it needs to be a complete surprise. The wedding preparations continued. Their registry was unique. Instead of traditional gifts, they asked guests to contribute to a foundation they were starting, aimed at making adaptive technology more accessible to those who couldn't afford it. The rehearsal dinner was a testament to their love story. The rehabilitation center staff sat mixed with tech executives, proving that their worlds had truly merged. Monica gave a tearful speech about watching their love bloom in room 215, while Michelle raised a toast to the nurse who had seen her brother's heart before his wallet. The night before the wedding, Marcus lay awake in his bed, thinking about the next day. His muscles ached from the intense therapy sessions, but his heart was full of hope. He reached for his phone and sent Jasmine a text. Tomorrow, I give you my name, my heart, and a surprise that will show you just how far love can push a person to go. I love you. Jasmine, also awake in her own bed, replied. I don't need any surprises. Just you, exactly as you are, is all I've ever wanted. Little did she know that in less than 24 hours, their wedding would become a moment that none of their guests would ever forget. As the city slept, their dream wedding waited just hours away, along with a miracle that would prove that love truly knows no bounds. The morning sun peeked through the curtains of the Grand Plaza Hotel's bridal suite as Jasmine sat before the mirror, watching her best friend Lisa work magic with her hair. The room buzzed with activity. Bridesmaids in matching robes fluttered about. Her mother fussed with the wedding dress hanging by the window, and her younger cousins giggled as they arranged flowers. Something's different about the hotel today, Lisa remarked, pinning another curl into place. I've never seen so many medical staff at a wedding before. Jasmine nodded, having noticed the unusual number of people in scrubs discreetly moving through the hotel corridors. Marcus said it's just a precaution. You know how his family worries about him overdoing it. In another wing of the hotel, Marcus's preparation room had been transformed into something between a medical facility and a groom's suite. Dr. Chen and his team worked efficiently, checking equipment while Marcus's groomsmen cracked jokes to keep the atmosphere light. You sure about this, bro? His best man, Kevin, asked quietly, watching the medical team make final adjustments to what looked like high-tech leg braces hidden under Marcus's custom-tailored pants. It's a big risk. Marcus's hands were steady as he adjusted his bow tie. I've never been more sure of anything. We practiced this for months. Today, I stand for my bride. Down in the hotel lobby, Monica from the rehabilitation center had appointed herself unofficial greeter, telling anyone who would listen about how she witnessed their love story from the beginning. Just wait, she kept saying with a knowing smile. This wedding will be one for the history books. Jasmine's mother slipped into the bridal suite with tears already forming in her eyes. "Baby, you look like an angel." She helped Jasmine step into her dress, carefully smoothing the fabric. "Marcus just sent this for you." She handed Jasmine the small velvet box. Inside was a delicate bracelet with a single charm, a tiny silver key. The note read, "You unlocked my heart the day you walked into room 215. Today, I have a key of my own to unlock something special for you. Love, Marcus." Jasmine touched the bracelet gently, puzzled by the cryptic message but too caught up in wedding day emotions to dwell on it. Meanwhile, in Marcus's room, Dr. Chen was conducting final checks. "Remember," he instructed, "we've programmed everything to activate on your command. The technology will support you, but it's your strength that will make this work." Marcus nodded, his expression determined. 3 months of secret physical therapy had prepared him for this moment. His muscles ached from yesterday's final practice session, but adrenaline coursed through his veins. The hotel staff buzzed about with last-minute preparations, while guests began filling the ceremony space. The medical team positioned themselves strategically around the room, their presence barely noticeable but crucial for what was to come. In the bridal suite, Jasmine's father arrived, stopping in the doorway at the sight of his daughter. "My God," he whispered, his voice thick with emotion. "Marcus is the luckiest man in Atlanta." Jasmine hugged him carefully, mindful of her dress. "Daddy, I'm the lucky one." Just then, Lisa rushed in, her eyes wide with excitement. "You won't believe what's happening downstairs. The ceremony space looks magical, but there's something else, something about Marcus. Everyone's whispering about a surprise." Jasmine's heart skipped a beat. "What kind of surprise?" "No one's saying exactly," Lisa replied, "but I overheard his sister Michelle saying something about making history today." The clock struck 12, marking 1 hour until the ceremony. In his room, Marcus closed his eyes, mentally rehearsing every movement he would need to make. The lace braces hummed softly beneath his pants, ready to assist in what would be either a miraculous moment or an ambitious attempt that fell short. "It's time," Dr. Chen announced softly, helping Marcus into his wheelchair. "Are you ready?" Marcus took a deep breath, thinking of Jasmine's smile, her unwavering love, and the moment that was about to come. "I've been ready since the day I met her," he replied, his voice strong and sure. The morning was ending, and with it, the time for preparation. The next hour would bring a moment that would leave their guests speechless and prove that love, combined with determination, could make the impossible possible. The grand ballroom of the Plaza Hotel had been transformed into a breathtaking wedding venue. 300 guests filled the seats, creating an aisle wide enough for a wheelchair to pass comfortably. White and purple flowers adorned every corner, and soft lighting created a warm, intimate atmosphere despite the large space. Marcus waited in a side room, his heart pounding. Dr. Chen made one final check of the hidden technology beneath his tuxedo pants. "Everything is responding perfectly," he whispered. "Remember your training. When the moment comes, let the technology assist you naturally." In the bridal suite, Jasmine stood before the full-length mirror, her white dress flowing beautifully around her. The dress had been specially designed with a shorter front to avoid any wheelchair complications during their first dance. Her father stood in the doorway, dabbing at his eyes with a handkerchief. "The guests are all seated," he announced. "And baby girl, you need to see Marcus. He looks different today. There's something about him I can't quite put my finger on." The wedding coordinator's voice crackled over the radio. "Groom's party, please take your positions." Marcus took a deep breath and nodded to his groomsmen. As they wheeled him toward the altar, gasps of admiration rippled through the crowd. His wheelchair had been customized for the occasion, gleaming in metallic black with subtle purple accents to match the wedding colors. Dr. Chen and his medical team positioned themselves discreetly around the altar area, pretending to be regular guests but ready for what was to come. The minister stood at the elevated platform, which had been specially constructed with a gentle slope. The music began, not the traditional wedding march, but At Last by Etta James, their song. The bridesmaids proceeded down the aisle first, each carrying a single purple rose. Michelle, Marcus's sister, winked at him as she took her place, knowing what was about to unfold. Then the music shifted, and everyone rose. Jasmine appeared at the entrance with her father, and Marcus felt his breath catch in his throat. She was radiant, her smile lighting up the entire room. As she walked down the aisle, their eyes locked, and in that moment, nothing else existed. Not the wheelchair, not the hidden technology, not the hundreds of watching eyes. Monica, sitting in the front row, wiped away tears as she watched the couple who had fallen in love in room 215. Beside her, other staff members from the rehabilitation center beamed with pride. When Jasmine reached the altar, her father kissed her cheek and placed her hand in Marcus's. She noticed immediately that Marcus seemed different. There was an energy about him, a barely contained excitement that went beyond normal wedding day jitters. The minister began the ceremony, speaking about love that transcends all barriers. As he talked about their unique journey, Marcus squeezed Jasmine's hand 3 times, their secret code for I love you. The ceremony proceeded beautifully, with readings from both families and a special message from one of Marcus's former patients who had become a close friend. But those who knew what was coming could barely contain their anticipation. Dr. Chen watched Marcus carefully, monitoring his subtle movements. Everything was aligned perfectly. The hidden braces were responding well, and Marcus's vitals, which they were tracking discreetly, showed he was ready for what would come next. Michelle stepped forward to read a poem about love's power to overcome any obstacle. As she read, Marcus's hand moved imperceptibly to a small control panel hidden in his wheelchair's armrest. Dr. Chen nodded almost invisibly. All systems were go. The minister's voice rang out clear and strong. And now, before we proceed to the ring exchange, Marcus has something special he would like to share with his bride. Jasmine looked at Marcus questioningly. This wasn't part of the rehearsal. She noticed his eyes were shining with tears and determination. The room grew silent with anticipation. Even the wedding coordinator, who had planned hundreds of ceremonies, stood transfixed. She had been briefed about what was about to happen, but could hardly believe it was possible. The moment they had all been waiting for was seconds away. Marcus took a deep breath, his finger hovering over the hidden control that would activate the technology that had been months in development. He was ready to give Jasmine, and everyone present, the surprise of their lives. The entire ballroom fell silent as Marcus pressed the hidden control on his wheelchair. A soft mechanical whir, barely audible, came from beneath his tuxedo pants. Dr. Chen and his team moved slightly closer, while maintaining their disguise as regular guests. Jasmine, Marcus began, his voice strong and clear, from the day you walked into room 215, you've seen me as complete, exactly as I am. But today, I want to give you something no one thinks is possible. Confused, Jasmine watched as Marcus took a deep breath. Then, before her eyes, something incredible began to happen. With the help of the hidden mechanical braces, Marcus slowly began to rise from his wheelchair. Gasps erupted throughout the ballroom. Jasmine's hand flew to her mouth, tears instantly streaming down her face. Marcus stood, somewhat shakily but definitely standing, reaching his full height of 6 feet for the first time in Jasmine's presence. "Oh my God," Jasmine whispered, her voice trembling. "Marcus." The medical team tensed, ready to assist if needed, but Marcus remained steady. 3 months of secret physical therapy and countless hours of practice with the experimental braces had prepared him for this moment. "I wanted to stand beside you as we exchange our rings," Marcus said, tears in his own eyes. "Not because I needed to, but because you gave me the strength to try the impossible." Monica, in the front row, was openly sobbing. Michelle held her phone with shaking hands, capturing every second of this historic moment. Even the minister had to pause to wipe his eyes. Jasmine's father called out from his seat. "That's my son," his voice filled with pride for the man who had worked so hard to create this miracle for his daughter. The ring bearer, Marcus's young nephew, stepped forward with the pillow holding their rings. Marcus, still standing with the support of his high-tech braces, took Jasmine's ring first. His hands trembled slightly, not from weakness but from emotion. "With this ring," he said, sliding the band onto her finger, "I pledge not just my love, but my determination to keep surprising you for the rest of our lives." Jasmine could barely see through her tears as she took Marcus's ring. The entire room held its breath, watching this powerful moment unfold. As she placed the ring on his finger, she managed to speak through her tears. "With this ring, I promise to keep believing in miracles, because that's what our love is." Dr. Chen watched the medical readings on his discreet tablet, amazed at Marcus's stability. The experimental braces were performing better than any of their tests had shown. The power of love and determination had pushed the technology beyond their expectations. The minister, composing himself, continued with the ceremony. By the power vested in me, I now pronounce you husband and wife. You may kiss your bride. For the first time in their relationship, Marcus didn't have to look up to kiss Jasmine. Their lips met at the same height, creating a picture-perfect moment that brought another round of tears and applause from their guests. As they turned to face their friends and family, still standing together, the minister announced, "Ladies and gentlemen, I present to you Mr. and Mrs. Bennett." The applause was deafening. Guests stood, cheering and crying. The medical team relaxed slightly, seeing that their months of work had paid off perfectly. Marcus's sister Michelle rushed forward with his wheelchair, positioning it behind him. "Just in case," she whispered, knowing he couldn't stand indefinitely. But Marcus remained standing for the photographs, holding Jasmine's hand tightly. The photographer captured shot after shot of this miraculous moment. The bride and groom standing together, something no one had thought possible just hours before. Finally, as they prepared to leave the altar, Marcus smoothly lowered himself back into his wheelchair. Jasmine leaned down and whispered in his ear, "That was the most beautiful gift anyone has ever given me." Marcus smiled up at her, his eyes shining. "The real gift," he replied, "was you believing in me enough to make me believe in myself." As they made their way back down the aisle, their guests continued to cheer. They had just witnessed not just a wedding, but a moment that proved love really could make miracles happen. Dr. Chen made a mental note to document this day in medical history, the day when love pushed the boundaries of medical technology and created a moment that none of them would ever forget. The reception hall buzzed with excitement as guests couldn't stop talking about the magical moment they had witnessed. The video of Marcus standing to exchange rings had already gone viral on social media, with millions of views within hours. News crews gathered outside the hotel, hoping to catch a glimpse of the couple who had just made medical history. Inside, Marcus and Jasmine sat at their elevated sweetheart table, greeting guests and accepting congratulations. The experimental braces remained hidden under Marcus's pants, but now their presence was known to all. Dr. Chen had been invited to sit at a place of honor, no longer needing to hide his role in this miracle. "Ladies and gentlemen," the DJ announced, "it's time for the couple's first dance." Marcus wheeled onto the dance floor with Jasmine. As, at last, played once again, he pulled her onto his lap, just as they had done so many times before. They spun gracefully across the floor, proving that love didn't need standing to create a perfect dance. During the father-daughter dance, Jasmine's father hugged her tight and whispered, "Your Marcus just changed the world, baby girl, and it was all for you." Later in the evening, Marcus took the microphone, his voice strong with emotion. "Today wasn't just about standing for our rings. Jasmine and I have an announcement to make." He gestured to his new wife to join him. "We're establishing the Bennett Foundation," Jasmine announced, holding Marcus's hand. "Using the technology that helped Marcus stand today, we're going to help other people with disabilities access these innovations, regardless of their financial situation." The crowd erupted in applause as Marcus continued, "Every gift you gave us today will go toward this foundation. We want our love story to open doors for others." Michelle stepped forward with a large check, revealing that Marcus's tech company had pledged $10 million to start the foundation. Other tech executives in attendance began standing up, announcing their own pledges. Monica, still wiping tears, hugged both of them. "Room 215 will never be the same," she said. "We're turning it into a special room for patients who need hope. Your story will be on its walls." As the evening progressed, Marcus and Jasmine snuck away to a quiet balcony for a moment alone. The Atlanta skyline sparkled before them, promising a future full of possibilities. "I have one more surprise," Marcus said softly, pressing the control on his wheelchair. Once again, he rose to stand beside his wife. "The doctors say with practice, I might be able to stand for short periods every day." Jasmine touched his face gently. "Whether you're standing or sitting, you'll always be the man I fell in love with in room 215. Their moment was interrupted by Dr. Chen, who approached with excitement. "Mr. and Mrs. Bennett, the medical community is calling this a breakthrough. Your story is inspiring research facilities worldwide to invest in similar technology." The rest of the reception became a beautiful blur of dancing, laughter, and joy. Guests from the rehabilitation center mingled with tech executives, discussing possibilities for future innovations. Love had not only united two people but was creating ripples of change throughout multiple industries. As the evening drew to a close, Marcus and Jasmine prepared to leave for their honeymoon, a specially equipped villa in the Maldives where they would help test more adaptive technologies for vacation properties. Standing at the hotel entrance, surrounded by their loved ones, Jasmine looked at her husband with tears of joy. Ready for our next adventure? Marcus smiled, taking her hand. With you, I'm ready for anything. The wedding car pulled away, decorated with ribbons and signs reading "Just Married" and "Love Knows No Bounds." Behind them, the Grand Plaza Hotel continued to buzz with excitement, its walls having witnessed a moment that would be remembered for years to come. That night, thousands of people around the world watched the viral video of their ring exchange, finding hope in their story. Messages poured in from everywhere, thanking them for showing that love could literally help people stand against all odds. In the years that followed, the Bennett Foundation would go on to help hundreds of people access life-changing technology. Their love story became more than just a wedding day miracle. It became a movement, proving that when love is real, nothing is impossible. And it all started in room 215, where a compassionate nurse saw beyond a wheelchair to the man who would one day stand to become her husband.